Hello everyone, my name is Brianna. I've never made an evening gown before, and what better way to learn than by creating a dress for my sister to wear to prom. I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. It turned out beautifully, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We need to go back to the very beginning of this entire journey, because it was an entire journey. Now, just a little bit of a heads up, during this time, I was going through a pretty tough period of depression, and in many of the clips, you'll notice that I'm looking a bit rough, and that's because my mental health was not good. When I first went through these clips, I felt a lot of sadness for the person I was back then, which is one reason it's taken me 2 years to finally edit this video. It had nothing to do with the dressmaking itself. In fact, working on this dress did help distract me from everything that was going on in my life. I learned so much from making this gown, and it's still the best thing that I've created, only because I haven't really made anything this big since then. But anyways, yeah, I'm rambling. Thank you guys so much for clicking on the video and sticking around to listen to my spiel. Let's dive in and again, go back to the very beginning of this journey. In December of 2021, my sister asked me if I could make her prom dress, to which I said, absolutely. Flash forward to near the end of the month, we had a video chat on how she would like her dress to look like. We went through many photos on Pinterest and narrowed it down to one certain style, an A-line ball gown with a sweetheart neckline and long poofy sleeves. So I drew out the sketch of her idea and got straight into the sample making. Beginning with the draping, I focused on the top portion first, working on the center front, side back, and center back panels, making sure that everything was tight and smooth to the dress form, and then outlining every single part of it. So it's been a minute since I last draped something, and because of that, I was actually enjoying this entire process of draping something on the dress form. So I decided to drape a different type of neckline, a V neckline, but I had a feeling that my sister wasn't going to really like it, because the sweetheart is a neckline that a lot of younger people tend to go towards for the prom dress. For the sleeve, I already had a pattern pre-made from a year prior to this, but it was a shorter version. So all I pretty much did was extend out the sleeve pattern to fingertip length. So I made the sample ready for the sweetheart, and then here's the sample for the V-neck. I'm so glad I didn't spend 3 days doing this. This could have taken me a long time, because I take my time when I'm doing things. So now that I have a half sample done, it was time for me to transfer everything over to the other side. So I grabbed a bunch of muslin fabric, ironed it down, I grabbed my pinwheel that looks like a little torture device, and a pen. And then I pretty much traced over all of the lines onto the fabric, because the only thing that I was going to be tracing over was the bodice, really. Once that was done, I sewed all of the panels together. And along this entire journey, I made sure to write down every single note, like the seam allowance, how much I took in, just so I can remember for like later on down the road. As soon as that top portion was done, I made another sleeve by the pattern that I already had made from earlier. Okay, so this looks a little chaotic. I know. But trust the process, right? Because it was a sample, I just kind of roughed it with like everything. I sewed all of my pieces together except for the center back. I left those completely open because next was going to be the first fitting with my sister. Okay, so there is a lot to get done here. Clearly, like you can see, the top portion needs to be taken in, the skirt needs to be taken in a bit, the center back of the skirt needs to have like a little bit more fabric on the bottom portion of it for the center back for like that cascading effect, and then the sleeves need to be taken in on the shoulder part of it, obviously boning for the bodice. Yes, there's a lot that needs to be done. Luckily, we had the time to do this, the fitting, so I would say that this is a very successful run. I could tell that my sister was a little bit like taken aback on how everything looked, which I completely understand, because I'm sure for anybody, they're just like, okay, like, I don't know, like, how is this gonna look like with my final dress? Are you gonna have enough time? I just had to make sure to just tell her like, hey, this is just a sample, this is the first fitting, and this is why I'm here, for me to know how much I need to take in, so that way the next time I come around with it being the final fabric, it's gonna be a lot more fitting towards you. I would say that this was definitely a success. So I got to take this in because there's a lot of space here. So on each of the bust, take it in about a 1/2 inch and blending it into the bust point or a little bit underneath the bust point. The sleeves, they're good. The skirt is good to go, but I'm gonna transfer the skirt onto paper pattern. So that's where we're at right now. It's looking good though. As for final fabric, we still don't know what we're gonna get. The goal is to finish this by the end of next month because I don't want to be stressing out in the last minute. Okay. Okay, my throat. This is breaking news, everyone. My sister got nominated for prom queen. That is right, everyone. Prom queen nominated. But now the pressure was on. I mean, there was no pressure, but like now I felt like, okay, well, now we have to make this dress look even more perfect. Not that I wasn't, oh my god. But we needed to make sure that this dress looked really good in order for her to look her best during that day. It's an exciting thing. She never would have thought that she would have gotten nominated, and here she did. So exciting, 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 exciting. Prior to this very exciting news, I had purchased all the materials off of Etsy, except for the petticoat. I purchased that from Amazon, and everything else I pretty much already had from when I purchased for fashion school. Like seeing everything all together, I was like, this is great. I have everything here. Later on, I ended up making a really big mistake that ended up requiring me to purchase more materials. This is the fabric. It is so pretty. This is meant to be the lining. So I ended up not having enough for the back portion of it. Oh my goodness, you guys. It was so frustrating during this time. No, I was actually very frustrated. And there would be an ice cream truck passing by right now. Like I was saying, I was very frustrated, but I had to move forward. So I purchased more fabric and then had to wait until that came in. Because I had to wait, I ended up starting to work on other things. As all the items started to arrive, I began transferring everything to the main fabric and sewed everything up. And just like the draping, I started off with the bodice. Using this material, I noticed that it was fraying a lot on the edges. So I ended up adding fusing onto one side of the bodice, specifically the back side. I noticed by adding the fusing that it took away the shininess to the fabric. Like it made it look dull, which I didn't really want. So for the front side, I didn't add any fusing to it. Adding fusing to the back really helped stabilize my material and also help with the fraying, and I knew it was going to be a big help when it came to adding the boning panels onto it. I'm cutting out the strips for the boning. I feel like it's fraying way too much. So this will probably be a no-go. Tossing that to the side, and instead I'm going to use muslin fabric because that doesn't fray as much as this. So as you just seen, there was a lot of fraying going on right there. I didn't really record this part. I cut out the strips for the placement of the boning and sewed them down evenly onto the bustier. After sewing down the boning panels, it was now time for me to combine the front and back pieces together. I made sure that every single panel seam was aligned and then sewed both pieces together, then flipped it right side out and did a top stitch. Pressed the fabric so it could be easier for me to sew down, and then I did a top stitch all the way around. Check it out, it looks so good. I started to work on cutting out the sleeves right after this. It was simply just bothering me that I haven't even started that yet. And very annoyingly, my arm was in the way, so the camera kept going out of focus. I don't know if you've seen this like 2 years ago on TikTok, but there's a fork technique to make pleats into your fabric. And I'm currently doing that technique to make the pleats onto the petticoat. So I'm adding this into the bottom layer of this. I'm creating another layer at the bottom because it was too short. So one more layer to add a bit more volume. Once that's complete, I'm just going to put it on the dress form to see how it looks and go from there. We decided to go with the petticoat underneath the skirt to give it that voluptuous look. We also didn't want it too dramatic where it looks like there's a bird cage underneath. I know it's an easy thing to make, but I didn't make the petticoat. Instead, I got off of Amazon and added another layer to the bottom of it as I didn't like how short it was. I also got a roll of tulle off of Amazon, and the only thing I really did was cut straight into the middle of it. The fork technique that I was talking about earlier, it actually helped a lot to save time on getting my pleats ready. I inserted the fork into the top layer of the fabric, twisted it, and sewed down while removing that fork. And by doing so, I didn't have to pin anything. Just make sure that the fork doesn't get in the way and that you don't sew that down, or else the needle or even the entire sewing machine will break. It ended up taking me a couple of hours to do this, because I was also adding it onto the bottom of the petticoat while I was sewing down the pleats. Okay. And just in time, I finally received more of the main fabric. Not shown, but I did cut out the back panels of the skirt, and I had enough fabric. I cut the tulle on my living room floor, since this was the only spot in the house with enough space to do this on. I used the same pattern that I cut the main fabric from to use for the tulle, which will be on the top part of the skirt. Also, this fabric collected so much pet fur, so cleaning it up was a bit annoying, and at first I kept cleaning it daily, but eventually I decided to hold off until the day before prom. Here's the skirt, and I'm gonna sew up the back right now. I'm gonna sew up the lining separately, but I'm not gonna install the zipper until I fit it onto my sister, the skirt, because I need to see how small it needs to be. I'm gonna fit the bustier, which honestly I think I'm gonna have to redo. It didn't come out that good. There was a bit of puckering going on, and I think it was because I messed with the tension on my sewing machine. Not really 100% sure what it was. So once I came back home from the last fitting, I removed the entire center front and replaced it with new fabric, which you will see in a moment. And now packing up one last time for our final fitting with the bodice and skirt still separate from each other. I also didn't take the sleeves, as I needed to fix the elastic in the shoulder and cuffs. So right now we have my sister's prom dress, and we're here at my family's, about to do some fittings on her. This is probably the first and only one, because prom is only 2 weeks away from today. So just need to get it done and over with. But it's all in pieces, so we'll see. I'm not going to show you how it looks on her just yet, but here's a quick clip of my family seeing it for the first time.
Wow! It fits! I know.
Everyone was shocked on how good it looked. Even me. And to my surprise, I didn't need to do much alterations besides hemming the skirt and redoing the front bodice. So overall, it was a success. Good morning. I still have a lot of things to do for the dress. I'm tired. I'm feeling a bit disoriented right now, but okay, so, oh my god. So here's what we have to do. I go on rambling for quite some time. All I was saying was I fixed the hem and I needed to trim down the boning for the bodice, attach the bodice to the skirt, and I also needed to re-add the elastic to the sleeves. And also, this messy background is just looking wretched right now. It looks a lot more nicer in person. It indeed did not look that nice in person. I don't know what I was saying. My office looks better now though. With it being 1 week out till prom, I immediately got started on the bodice. Hook up! Hey! Okay. Alright, anyways. Remember about what I said earlier about the puckering that was going on at the front of the bodice? So because of that, I ended up removing the entire front from the back and added new pieces to the center front only. But I did also forget to mention that I somehow scratched the material in front of the one that I was replacing. That was another reason to why I needed to replace this. It was a small detail, but I could notice it from afar and it bothered me a lot. Adding the grommets was pretty fun. I've only done this maybe 2 times at most, so I made sure to practice with the scrapper fabric beforehand, and that all of these grommets were perfectly aligned with each other. But guess what? All of them came out perfectly, all except for one. It was just off maybe by 1/8 of an inch. I don't think I have a clip of me showing it because I was so annoyed that I messed it up, and luckily I don't think anyone even noticed. And I never told anyone this, so this is a secret between me and you guys. Well, with 100 people who see this. Remember earlier when I was working on the boning panels and I showed you guys how much the fabric was fraying? Well, this time around, I'm not sure what I did differently while working on this corset string, because it didn't fray. I know I pressed the fabric down like crazy, and it was more wider than the panels, so maybe those two things play a part into why it turned out so clean and smooth. This is the look. The sleeves aren't sewn on yet. I was just placing them on here. This isn't sewn on yet. I'm very happy with how it's coming out. My sister wanted sleeves like this, the long ones. Also, her wrists are very tiny. I am so glad that I restarted this top. It looks so much better. The other one was so wrinkly and it just didn't look nice. It's 2 days before my sister's prom and I am just packing everything up so that way I can go to my family's house tomorrow and do some last minute alterations on the dress. I'm just gonna steam this right now after I pack up everything for tomorrow, and I'm just making sure that I bring all my sewing supplies. So I'm taking my sewing machine, my shears, lint roller. I didn't add rhinestones because my sister did say in the beginning she doesn't really want rhinestones, but I'm tired, so I'm just gonna pack up everything and yeah. Alright you guys, so the waist is now sewn, it's completed. I stopped at iron and it's not steamed, but that is done. You guys, look. I gotta sew a hook and eye here. It looks so good and I feel relieved because that was the part that was taking the longest. I think for the rhinestones, I'm going to put them on just a tulle because the main part is pretty glossy on its own, and when I put the rhinestones on just to see how it'll look, I feel like it was just like too much right here, so definitely on the skirt and on the sleeves. So at this point there really wasn't much left to do besides maybe a few tweaks here and there and adding rhinestones and steaming the entire dress. I did remove the elastic once again off the shoulders and I felt like it was a bit too loose. I wanted to make it a bit more tighter, and luckily that's an easy fix. When you make something yourself, everyone else can say it looks good. They're seeing it from a distance, but as someone who makes it, you know all the flaws that are in it, even if people don't see those little flaws. I'm just freaking out for a moment, but it looks good. The only thing I'm like worried about is the back. I am gonna get a hook and eye to put right here and right here. I think I could have sworn I have a lot, but it ended up being a bunch of freaking snap-ons. So that's a bummer. Yeah, I might have to go definitely to Walmart to get more. That's the only issue right here that's bothering me. And then rhinestones, so there's not that much left, and oh my gosh, I'm just excited. So the fit should be good on her too. I always underestimate how long it's going to take for me to apply rhinestones to something. I didn't realize it was going to take me forever. And you know what's the crazy part is that I just sporadically placed them. But this ended up taking me a couple of hours the day before, and then it also took me a couple of hours the night before prom, and then it also took me another hour to 2 hours the morning of. But honestly though, it's so worth it. I love a little bit of sparkle in things. Just a little bit of shimmer, you know, I feel like helps really bring it to life even more. Guess what everyone? Today is prom day. Last night I stayed up till 1 a.m. to try to finish applying rhinestones. But I also decided to steam the entire dress, which took me a while to complete. But to be fair, I didn't want to do it in the morning. And once I got up in the morning, I finished applying the rest of the rhinestones onto the dress. And thank goodness I finished that within an hour. And then last but not least, I took my time removing all of the pet fur and lint off of this dress, specifically the tulle. But guys, that's it. I am beyond happy and thrilled that I completed this dress to see how beautiful my sister looked on her special day, and I'm grateful to have witnessed and been a part of this special moment. Before I show you her prom day reveal, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching all the way through, and to also mention that my sister didn't win prom queen. But she still had a very good time. One thing you can take away from this is to always give it a chance. Whether it's something like wanting to try out for prom court like my sister, but you're afraid because you're not popular or you don't have enough friends, or maybe applying for a higher position in your workplace, but you think they won't even bother looking at my application. So what is the point? The truth is, you just never know. There have been many times where I would doubt myself and think the exact same negative thoughts. But fortunately, I quickly turned my negative thoughts into positive. Like, hold up. We all start somewhere, so yes, I can apply. I have the freedom to apply, and I will apply because you never know. Heck, one time I applied to SpaceX for their spacesuit sewers, and although I knew I was reaching, it was still nice to get an email back of them denying my application. All of this to say, just go for it. Anyways, before I start rambling even more, that is the end of this video. Please give this a thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't already so we can be